Today, we're taking a slightly different approach. We're not digging into big reports or, dense studies.
No, none of that today. We are actually diving straight into what looks like a pretty simple YouTube video. It's made for people learning English.
Right. It's got this short story, The Last Straw, and then it breaks down vocabulary, has practice bits.
Yeah, listen and answer stuff. Pretty standard for language learning.
Exactly. Now, you might be thinking, okay, what deep insights can we possibly get from, something designed to be pretty basic?
And, well, that's kind of our mission today, isn't it?
It is. We want to look past the surface, past the language lesson part, and see if we can pull out some interesting nuggets. Things about maybe storytelling, motivation, maybe even office politics.
Definitely. Things that might surprise you, even if English is your first language. For the learners out there using these tools, maybe this gives you a new perspective on how even simple stuff can have deeper layers if you look closely.
Okay, so let's get into it. Let's start with the story itself. The Last Straw.
Right. So it's about this guy, Tom. He works in an office, feels totally overworked, kind of ground down by it all.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. And the one bright spot in his day, apparently, is his lunchtime sandwich. Is his moment of peace.
The sanctuary sandwich. Okay.
Pretty much. But then, one day, disaster strikes. You go to the break room, and, the sandwich isn't there. It's missing.
And here's where that title comes in, right? The video points out that for Tom, this stolen sandwich, it's the last straw.
Exactly. It explains the idiom, the final bad thing that just makes someone snap.
Yeah.
That last annoyance that pushes them over the edge.
So he's reached his breaking point. What does he do?
Well, he doesn't just sigh and get coffee. He stormed into his boss's office. That's the phrase the video highlights.
Meaning he went in fast and angry. You can picture it.
Totally. Slamming the door, maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, he barges in and quits. He said, look, the workload's too much, and someone stole my sandwich.
Okay, the boss's reaction must be interesting here.
Oh, it is. The boss looks kind of sheepish, actually, and confesses. He says, actually, Tom, I eat your sandwich.
No, the boss.
The boss, yeah. And then he immediately tries to make it up to Tom. The video explains that 1, 2, doing something nice because you messed up.
Right. So what does he offer? A replacement sandwich?
Better. He offers to double Tom's salary. Double. And throw in free lunch every single day.
Wow. Okay, that's quite the offer. Problem solved, surely.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? Big raise, free food. Sounds like a pretty good deal. But Tom just shook his head.
He turned it down. Double salary.
Turned it down flat. The video clarifies, trick his head means, moving your head side to side for no.
Wow.
He rejects the whole package.
Why? What did he want instead?
Get this. He says he doesn't want the money, doesn't need the free lunch. He have one condition. Just one.
Which is?
High security refrigerator. Just for his sandwiches.
You're kidding! A Fort Knox for his lunch.
Apparently. And the boss just agrees. And the story ends there. Everyone's supposedly happy. Tom has his secure sandwich storage.
That is a surprisingly specific and, kind of funny ending.
It's definitely memorable. And it leads us nicely into the vocabulary stuff the video focuses on. Because it picks out those exact phrases we just used.
Right. The last straw, stormed in, make it up to, and shook his head.
And what's interesting, like you said earlier, is how much these little phrases convey.
Totally. The last straw, boom. You instantly get this whole backstory of built-up frustration boiling over because of one small thing.
And stormed in paints such a clear picture of his anger. Much better than just saying, he went in angrily.
Yeah, it's vivid.
And these idioms, these phrasal verbs, they're everywhere in spoken English, right? But they can be really tricky for learners.
Sure. They're not always literal.
Exactly. So focusing on them makes sense. They add a lot of color and nuance. And understanding them is pretty key to sounding natural and understanding conversations. The video probably picks these ones because they're common and express feelings really efficiently.
Which kind of brings us to the next point. Why use a simple story like this for learning in the first place? Why is it effective?
Well, I think the simplicity is actually a big part of why it works. The plot isn't complicated. You follow Tom, you get the problem, you see the weird solution.
Right, it's straightforward.
And the vocabulary gets introduced and then used again. Plus, that listen and answer section really drills it in.
Oh, yeah, the practice part.
They ask super direct questions, like the example in the transcript. There was a man named Tom. What was there? And the expected answer is just a man.
Very repetitive.
And the video points out that repetition is good for fluency. Hearing it, saying it, even if it's basic sentences, that helps lock it in.
Makes sense. Build the foundation.
But what's also interesting is that even if you're not learning English, the story still kind of works. It's got something, right?
Yeah, I agree. There's that relatable thing about being fed up at work.
Definitely. And we all appreciate simple pleasures, like a really good sandwich, maybe.
For coffee or just 5 minutes of quiet.
Exactly. And then there's the ending, the high security fridge.
Yeah.
It's just absurd enough to be memorable and a bit funny.
It is. Which I guess leads us nicely into thinking about some of the maybe unexpected takeaways here, beyond just learning idioms.
Right. Because if you step back from the language lesson, what else is going on in this little story?
Well, one thing that jumps out is how much Tom values that small comfort, the sandwich. It's his only joy at work, apparently.
Yeah, that's a direct quote from the story in the video. And its disappearance hits him harder, seemingly, than the general stress of being overworked.
It really highlights how those little things, the small rituals or comforts, can sometimes be anchor points. Their disruption can feel huge.
Totally. It makes you think about what people really value, which connects to the boss's reaction too.
How so?
Well, the boss's immediate fix is money, double salary, free lunch. It's a very standard, almost corporate way to solve a problem, right? Throw money or perks at it.
Yeah, a conventional solution.
Yeah. But Tom completely rejects it. He doesn't want the standard fix. His need is incredibly specific. Protect the sandwich. It shows this total mismatch in priorities.
That's a great point. The boss assumes money is the universal motivator, but Tom's driven by something much more personal, almost emotional, maybe, protecting his small joy.
Right. It wasn't about the cash value. It was about the principle or the feeling the sandwich represented. It makes you wonder, how often do we try to fix problems with a generic solution when the real issue needs something, well, more tailored?
Or maybe just needs us to listen to what the actual problem is for that person. Like, really listen.
Exactly. And then there's the resolution itself. This high security fridge makes everyone happy.
It's pretty funny. And maybe a bit unrealistic. But still.
There's maybe a grain of truth in the absurdity. It kind of suggests that sometimes the best solutions, the ones that genuinely make people happy, aren't the obvious ones. They might even seem a little bit strange or unconventional.
Find the high security fridge solution, not just the double salary one.
Precisely. It's a neat little reminder that even simple teaching tools, like this story, can actually spark some interesting thoughts about, human behavior, what drives us, how we solve problems, if we bother to look a bit deeper.
So, wrapping up our deep dive today, we took this simple ESL story, The Last Straw, and found it actually gave us quite a bit to chew on.
Mm-hmm. Insights into workplace dynamics, like mismatched priorities between a boss and employee.
The surprising power and importance of seemingly small comforts in our daily lives.
Yeah, the value of the sandwich.
Right.
And also how sometimes the most effective solutions, the ones that really work, might be the most unexpected or specific ones.
It's definitely not always the most conventional.
So maybe a final thought for you listening. What are the sandwiches in your own life or in your work?
Yeah, those seemingly small things that if they got messed with might just be your last straw.
And on the flip side, what kind of unexpected, maybe slightly quirky solutions could actually make things genuinely better for everyone involved?
It's interesting to think about how even the simplest stories, the ones we might overlook, can hold these kinds of lessons if we just, take the time for a deeper dive.